Welcome to COABE's Meet the Author series, where we visit with the authors of our latest edition of the COABE Journal and find out what they wrote and why they wrote it. I'm Olga Escamilla, and I'm a guest content editor for this professional development edition of the COABE Journal, and I'm also past chair of AALPD. So today, we'll be discussing the article, Service Learning Using a Makerspace to Build Teachers' Digital Skills and Expand Access to Digital Resources by Jen Vanek, Jennifer Maddrell, Jeff Goumas, and Rachel Riggs from World Education. So I'm excited to have two of the authors, Jen Vanek and Jeff Goumas, join me today in this conversation. So I'd like to ask that each of you share a little bit about yourself and your current work in adult education before we begin.
Hello, thanks for the invitation. So pleased to be able to talk about this work. My name is Jen Vanek. I'm Director of Digital Learning and Research at the EdTech Center at World Education. I conduct research on adult learner digital literacy and how to integrate EdTech into instruction for adult learners. And then I craft professional development and provide technical assistance based on that work.
And my name is Jeff Goumas. I am a Senior Technical Advisor with the EdTech Center at World Education, and thank you for this opportunity to share our work. In my capacity at World Education, I lead our Crowded Learning Initiative, which is an open education resource initiative focused on expanding access to and awareness of openly licensed and available resources for adult education practitioners. I also lead a number of professional development efforts that are focused on the strategic integration of educational technology into instruction and learning.
Well, thank you both. I've heard so much about your work, and am so glad that you're bringing this digital literacy to our adult ed instructors in professional development. I'm just so excited. So with that said, let's get started with our questions. So why did you write this article for the COABE Journal?
I'm happy to answer that. Let me go back to 2017. A researcher here at Stanford University, Linda Darling-Hammond, published a really important research report describing the characteristics of quality professional development. The report describes how it needs to include active learning, collaboration, and coaching, extend over time, and include opportunities for reflection and feedback. We were struck during the pandemic about how so much PD fell short of this goal, including our own at World Education. We understand there's definitely a place for the one-shot webinars that introduce teachers to a new idea or share some thinking and new resources, but we know that to get real shifts in teacher practice, a more holistic and extended approach is needed. We also know that to feel comfortable using technology in their instruction, teachers need to use technology in their own learning. So we ran with an idea we've been experimenting with before the pandemic, a technology-rich service learning opportunity that leads to teacher change in practice and results in a bank of shared instructional resources. We call this the EdTech Makerspace. So through their community service, teachers curate and create free and open ed resources to benefit adult learners in a range of subjects, including math, reading, civic education, digital literacy, financial literacy, health literacy, and workforce preparation. While doing so, they gain knowledge and skills to find, evaluate, adapt, and create digital learning activities using various resources and EdTech tools. The EdTech Makerspace, like all service learning, rests on a theoretical foundation of what is called situated learning. In our case, this shows up as engagement through problem solving, collaboration through a community of practice, and facilitation through what is known as a cognitive apprenticeship. Basically, this means we involve subject matter experts to help lead EdTech Makerspace participants in highly relevant and collaborative learning. We wrote the article to make sure that this theoretical foundation is clear, to help others trust it, to encourage others to try it, and to show how these theories are evident in the EdTech Makerspace, giving examples of a few federally funded studies and projects where we have included this form of PD.
Thank you so much. That I think I've been waiting for professional development of this type to get our instructors more into the digital literacy? Because how are we supposed to teach our students for jobs of the future, or for even to function in society without this digital literacy, if our instructors are not digitally literate? So thank you so much. So with that said, how will adult education practitioners benefit from reading your article, and how will that benefit our learners?
Great, I'll take that question. We really see this article as beneficial to professional developers, to curriculum specialists, to instructors, and obviously students who are ultimately the recipients of the great resources that are generated through the EdTech makerspaces. So in terms of what is in the article, we really feel professional development leaders will gain insight into this model and how this goes beyond what Jen mentioned earlier was a show and go model, where teachers learn about new EdTech tools, but they're then not given the opportunity for meaningful application of this learning to new skills. We also hope that for professional developers, the article conveys the importance of helping educators understand how the purpose and the strategy behind the creation and or use of any digital resource should be built into any PD offering. This just establishes relevance for teachers in terms of how they view the integration of digital content and instructional technologies into their practice. For curriculum leaders, we hope that they take from this the understanding of how to provide a structured approach to any collaborative curriculum development efforts that they might leverage to address localized resource needs. Within that, we actually provide references to and links to our EdTech Makerspace Design and Implementation Guide, which they can then use as a step-by-step guide for applying some of the principles and practices of an EdTech makerspace into the curriculum efforts that they are attempting. And that can be at any scale, whether it is local, state, or beyond. In terms of practitioners, there's a number of resources that actually have been developed within the EdTech makerspace. In particular, we reference one of our projects, which is an IES-funded project, where we developed resources to support the implementation of a teaching model called Teaching Skills That Matter. Within that, through the EdTech makerspace, a number of resources for practitioners were generated, including a set of subject area frameworks for adult learners, which can be used by educators to identify key skills in digital, health, financial literacy, civics education, and workforce preparation to help them first identify the skills that they might want to be teaching learners that are relevant to adult learners, and then helping them apply the practices within of finding and curating resources to those skills that they can immediately use with learners. We also developed resource evaluation and activity design guides that are referenced and linked to within the article. And these are helpful for any practitioner who is looking to make decisions about either extant resources that are open and free that they may wish to use with learners, or to inform their own process of designing original activities by taking into consideration things such as whether the activity is accessible, it's free, and it's reusable so that others can benefit from the resources that they create. And then finally, learners will benefit through their teachers to just a wider range of high quality, accessible, and free learning resources that most importantly have been vetted, curated, and created by adult education practitioners. That they can in turn use with learners to help develop skills in those areas that I mentioned earlier: health, financial, and digital literacies, civics education, and workforce preparation. And then finally, through the training that is provided, it's not just about the generation of these materials, but teachers understanding their EdTech, how to integrate them and leverage them effectively. We hope that learners benefit because the teachers that come out of these makerspaces, and even those who are benefiting from the resources that are generated, have more knowledge and professionalized practices in terms of leveraging them so that they can provide rich opportunities that meet the specific needs of learners within their contexts.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that in terms of, what our educational practitioners and how they'll benefit. So what do you hope that the readers in general will take away from this article?
Well, like Jeff said, readers are going to gain access to resources that they can use right away. If they're a teacher, there'll be something they can take right to their classroom. PD leaders can get a guidebook to show how to mirror this work. But actually, on a higher level, I hope that readers will be reminded that we're all learning and growing professionally in our work every time we engage in a new type of activity. Learners are always growing, teachers, PD leaders, even us. Like, we learn from teachers and the subject matter experts when we hold these EdTech Makerspace events. The more we engage with others to learn and work collaboratively, the more relevant and rich our learning can be. That then strengthens the field and creates better learning opportunities for our adult students. So that's the high level message I hope people take from this.
Thank you. So one last question. Do you have any additional comments that you would like to share in terms of your article?
Sure. As with everything that we do within World Education's Crowded Learning Initiative, we believe that access to quality education is a human right and that knowledge is a public good. So all of the resources that are shared within the article are openly licensed. We really were excited to have the opportunity to present this research and the impact that it's had on our professional development work. Because we see this as an opportunity to expand the use of open education resources in general. It is not new that states or regions or local programs attempt to coordinate resource generation to address areas of need. And so our hope is that this article inspires practitioners to consider how applying EdTech Makerspace practices can provide a structured approach for them to address their localized needs.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Jen, so much for your contributions to adult education and specifically to the professional development in adult education, and especially in digital literacy that we need so much in terms of our instructors to deliver to our students. So I love, I've read a little bit about on the article, but I want to, I'm going to continue reading. It's a lot of great information and definitely a great resource for professional developers. I'm sorry, for professional development individuals in professional development throughout the nation to be able to come to this for those resources. So thank you so much. Then I hope this information has piqued everyone's interest and that you'll want to learn more about this article and the many others in this edition of the COABE Journal. So you can view the COABE Journal and learn more about how to receive a copy at coabe.org and click on the COABE Journal link. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Jen and Jeff.